On the night of March 8, 2014, 239 people, parents, children, and workers, boarded a Boeing 777. They were departing from Kuala Lumpur on a routine late-night flight schedule. Their destination was Beijing, with an expected arrival time of 6:30 the next morning. For the first 40 minutes, the flight proceeded as planned. The aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude and tracked safely over the South China Sea, navigating the corridor between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace. Modern commercial aviation relies on overlapping networks of civilian radar and satellite communications. Yet within hours, the digital and physical trail of those 239 lives was lost. At 1:19 a.m., Malaysian Air Traffic Control instructed the cockpit to contact Vietnamese authorities. The pilot replied with a standard sign-off, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Exactly 2 minutes later, the plane's transponder stopped broadcasting. This device transmits a plane's altitude and location to the ground. It was shut off manually from inside the cockpit. On civilian air traffic control screens, the change was absolute. The data blip for MH370 disappeared, leaving nothing but blank airspace. A 300-ton machine equipped with multiple layers of redundant communication technology had become a ghost, flying undetected by the civilian grid. While civilian radar lost the plane, Malaysian military primary radar continued to track its physical mass. Military radar showed that instead of continuing north, the aircraft executed a sharp left-hand U-turn and flew back across the Malaysian peninsula. Though the main communication systems were dead, an automated satellite terminal on board continued to send intermittent signal pulses to the Inmarsat satellite network. Investigators used these hourly handshakes to calculate a projected flight path. The timing of the signals suggested the plane had traveled deep into the southern Indian Ocean. The final handshake occurred at 8:19 a.m. This data point formed the 7th arc, a boundary line on the map marking where the Boeing 777 exhausted its fuel. This hourly digital trail contradicted the theory of a sudden mid-air explosion. The plane flew a long, silent journey until the engine stopped. Years later, physical fragments of the aircraft began washing up on the shores of East Africa and islands in the Indian Ocean. Barnacle growth on the metal and manufacturer serial numbers definitively matched these fragments to MH370. The lack of a main crash site fueled speculation that the plane had reached an alternative landing site. Some claimed the plane landed at the U.S. military base on Diego Garcia. However, ocean drift modeling shows that the fragments found in Africa could only have originated from the waters along the 7th arc. The physical oceanography confirms the satellite math. The evidence points to the floor of the southern Indian Ocean. Investigators passed the leading theories through this evidence. A mechanical failure or onboard fire is unlikely, as a fire damaging enough to kill the communications would typically bring the plane down long before it reached the 6-hour mark. The second theory is hypoxia. If the cabin lost pressure, the crew and passengers could have been rendered unconscious, leaving the autopilot to fly until the fuel was gone. But hypoxia does not explain the manual shutdown of the transponder or the specific, deliberate U-turn recorded by military radar. This points toward deliberate action by someone with advanced knowledge of the Boeing 777, leading to a murder-suicide theory centered on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Background checks, however, found no motive. Acting Transport Minister Hishamuddin Hussain asked for the crew to be considered innocent, noting how easy it is to level accusations against those who cannot defend themselves. While the flight path suggests human intervention, the lack of physical cockpit evidence leaves us with theories that all contain significant gaps. The search covered 1.7 million square miles of the ocean floor, with advanced sonar over 4 years. It found nothing. In January 2015, the Malaysian government, under Prime Minister Najib Razak, officially declared the disappearance an accident and presumed all lives on board were lost. To the families, this declaration was an attempt by the government and airline to settle claims and stop the search, while the mystery remained unsolved. For the relatives of the 239 passengers, the end of the search meant they were left with unanswered questions and a decade of speculation. Following the disappearance, the aviation industry mandated stricter underwater beacons and more frequent position reporting for flights over the open ocean. Despite these changes, 239 people remain unfound, their final moments unknown. Until the black boxes are recovered from the seafloor, MH370 remains a reminder of the limits of our technology and a silence that has lasted over a decade.